So I spoke here at Ignite a few years ago, and I gave a talk on professional wrestling. I decided this time to do something completely different, and hopefully we'll end on a hopeful and upbeat note, because it's kind of been like this all night, right? All right, so we know that climate change, we can begin, thanks. We know that climate change is caused by the emission of carbon dioxide, and it comes from a whole range of sources. But today I want to talk about buildings, which are responsible for over a quarter of that. If we are able to create more efficient building technologies, I'm talking HVAC systems and appliances, then we can actually take a significant chunk out of this massive global problem. And there's so much that I can say here, but I want to start with refrigerators, which used to be bulky, ugly, expensive energy hogs, but they are an energy efficiency success story because modern refrigerators are bigger, yet only consume 1/4 of the energy, cost 1/3 the price, and allow you to watch impeachment hearings right on the refrigerator door. Success story number 2, hopefully, is clothes dryers, which use about 1% of all energy in the United States, largely by heating and evaporating water. But right now, researchers at Oak Ridge National Laboratory are working on ultrasonic drying technology, in which rapidly vibrating membranes take your clothes and atomize the water that's inside them, and then sucks it right out. If we can bring this to scale, you will be able to dry your clothes in half the time with 1/5 the energy. And I've already developed the slogan. The ultrasonic clothes dryer, take your sock drawer to Mach 4. Let's do this. All right. But mitigating carbon emissions is about more than just using less energy. It's also about using the right kinds of energy. And often you'll hear about these 100% renewable energy targets, more wind, more solar. Our electric grid has to balance generation and demand in real time. And so while I admire that ideal, how do you keep the television running, darling, when the wind stops blowing and the sun stops shining? Well, there's a new device that's made its way into about half of all buildings. And if you are a Pepco or a BGE customer, you probably have one of these installed already. And it's called the Smart Electricity Meter. And what's unique about it is that it enables utilities to send signals to buildings, two-way communication. So I want you to imagine it's one of the hottest days of the year. People are getting off work, they're driving home. What's one of the first things they do when they walk in the door? They turn on their air conditioners at the same time. This level of demand is some of the most stressful on the entire grid. And with smart meters, utilities can now send signals to buildings that say, look, we're about to experience a really stressful event. If you are willing, we will pay you to reduce your demand. This is called demand response. And literally, with the instantaneous flip of a switch, buildings can help the grid balance, including instances when variable renewable energy, like solar and wind, become unavailable. Now, another way to help the grid balance is by storing excess solar and wind energy and then dispatching it later as needed. But going 100% renewable would require a really large amount of storage. Now, we can get some of it from pumped hydroelectric energy and some of it from electrochemical batteries, but there's actually another way that we can store energy, and that's in a building's thermal mass. So imagine that you take a liquid material and you embed it in the bricks that make up the walls of your building. It's a hot, sunny day, so using excess solar energy, you can actually instruct your building to turn on the air conditioner at 2 p.m. The liquid material freezes, the AC shuts off at 5, and when you get home, your building acts like a giant cooler, keeping you comfortable without having to consume electricity just as solar generation is dipping for the day. And while all of this is fantastic, even if we were to go zero carbon tomorrow, so much inertia has been built up in the Earth's climate system that global climate conditions will continue to deteriorate for decades to come. And that includes more extreme weather. We're talking more frequent and intense hurricanes, longer and deeper heat waves, the polar vortex. And with all of this comes more prolonged power outages. Now, it would be great if everyone in harm's way could evacuate to safe locations, but for a variety of reasons that remains impossible or impractical for far too many people. We need a way for people to safely shelter in place. I get the sense that the slides are way off, but you may have seen a picture of the Belfast Eco-Village. The buildings in those villages are incredibly energy efficient. We're talking 10-inch thick walls, triple pane windows, high levels of insulation. December 2013, an ice storm hits. 160,000 customers without power, hundreds of people driven into temporary shelters. It was minus 5 degrees outside, but in those passive homes, 4.5 days later, 58 degrees. Just for comparison, during thunderstorm 2011, my old drafty house in Roland Park barely lasted 58 minutes. And you saw the sign that I put up on the snowman. It might come up eventually again. So look, ultimately, if we want to address this problem, if we want to combat it, we need to do so on multiple fronts. So if you want to reduce energy usage, decarbonize the grid, and help us adapt to future impacts, buildings might seem old hat, but they can also be our new hope. Thanks.